Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're diving deep into customer profiling.
Oh yeah, this is gonna be good.
It is. I've got some fascinating research here and a whole lecture on marketing analytics.
Nice.
It's all about figuring out who your customers really are. Beyond just their names and email addresses.
Right, like getting into their heads a little bit,
It-
understanding what makes them tick.
exactly. And why that matters so much for businesses.
Well, think about it. If you know who your customer is, you can tailor everything to them. Your marketing, your products, even your customer service.
It's like speaking directly to their needs and desires.
And that's how you build a loyal customer base.
Okay, so let's start with the basics. The material lays out a couple of different ways businesses can actually, make money. There's the subscription model, like we see with Netflix or Spotify.
Yeah, you pay a monthly fee and you get access to their services.
Right. But then there's the transaction model, and that's where things get really interesting when it comes to customer profiling.
Because with transactions, you're dealing with individual purchases. So understanding who's buying what becomes super important.
The lecture actually uses Walmart as an example. It's mind-blowing. They estimate that a single Walmart supercenter probably sees thousands of transactions every single hour.
Wow, that's a lot of data.
It is, and that's just one store. Imagine all the Walmarts across the country.
That's why they're so successful. They're masters of understanding their customer base.
Okay, so under the transaction model, there are two main types: business to consumer or B2C.
That's what we see every day, buying groceries, clothes online, that kind of stuff.
Right, high volume of sales, but each purchase is, relatively low value.
And then there's business to business or B2B.
Fewer clients, but each sale is worth a lot more.
Think of like software companies or those selling specialized equipment to other businesses.
So instead of focusing on broad customer profiles, B2B is more about building those one-on-one relationships.
Exactly. Think account-based marketing, where you tailor your whole approach to each specific client.
It's like a partnership almost.
It is. You're working together to achieve shared goals.
Okay, so for this deep dive, we're focusing mainly on B2C and how they use customer profiling.
Sounds good.
Now, the material highlights two main approaches to segmenting customers. There's profiling, which is all about who they are.
Their demographics, their psychographics, all that good stuff.
Right, and then there's behavioral segmentation, which is more about what they do.
Their actions, their purchase history, how they interact with your brand.
And both approaches have their advantages and disadvantages, right?
Definitely. Profiling gives you that big picture overview. It's easier to summarize and communicate to your team.
But it's not as directly tied to what people are actually buying, whereas behavioral segmentation is all about those specific actions.
What they click on, what they put in their cart, what they actually buy in the end.
Like those, you might also like recommendations you see online.
Exactly. That's powered by behavioral data.
It's creepy how accurate they can be sometimes.
It is. They're getting really good at that stuff.
But hey, if it helps me discover new things I might like, I'm not complaining.
Me neither.
Okay, so for this deep dive, we're sticking with profiling, figuring out who those customers are. And the material outlines three main dimensions for building these profiles: geographic, demographic, and psychographic.
Classic segmentation categories.
Yeah, and they each provide a different piece of the puzzle. So first up, geographic. This one's pretty straightforward. It's all about location.
Where your customers live can tell you a lot about their preferences and their lifestyle.
Like someone living in a big city might have different needs and priorities than someone in a rural area.
Exactly.
And the lecture actually had this amazing example. They showed a map of Google searches for Dollar General, the store.
Yeah, no Dollar General.
Turns out there's a lot more search activity in the South and Midwest, which suggests regional shopping preferences.
Interesting. So people in those areas might be more price conscious.
That's what the lecture suggested. It's like that one data point about location suddenly tells you a whole lot more about who your customer might be.
Just like a clue.
Exactly. Okay, then we have demographics. I think this is what most people think of when they hear customer profile, right?
Like their age, income, education level, all that good stuff.
Right. It's about painting a picture of who your customer is in terms of those essential facts.
And the best part is, a lot of this data is readily available.
Yeah, you can get it from sources like the U.S. Census Bureau.
So you don't have to start from scratch.
Exactly. It's super accessible for businesses, which is awesome.
And then lastly, we have psychographics.
The deep stuff, right.
Yeah, psychographics delve into lifestyles, values, attitudes.
It's like demographics tell you who they are, but psychographics tell you why they buy.
It's about getting inside their heads.
Exactly. So how do businesses figure that out? It's not like they can just look it up in a database.
Well, they often use surveys and questionnaires. They might also analyze social media activity to get a sense of their customers' interests and passions.
So it's a bit more detective work than demographics.
It is, but it's worth it. The more you know about your customers' motivations, the better you can connect with them.
So imagine you're marketing a new eco-friendly cleaning product. If you know your target customer is passionate about sustainability, you can tailor your messaging to highlight those values.
Exactly. You're speaking their language, showing them that you understand their concerns.
It's like building a bridge of understanding between your brand and your customer.
And that can make all the difference.
So we've covered the three main dimensions of customer profiling: geographic, demographic, and psychographic. But what do we do with all this information once we have it?
Well, that's where the fun begins.
I like the sound of that.
We're going to get into the nitty-gritty of data analysis.
Stay tuned, folks, because we're about to unlock the secrets of Excel charts and pivot tables.
Oh yeah, these are powerful tools.
They'll blow your mind. But that's for the next part of our deep dive. We'll be right back after a short break. Welcome back, everyone. So last time, we were getting pretty deep into customer profiling, talking about all the different ways businesses can learn about their customers.
Yeah, it's like becoming a detective, but for marketing.
Right. And we even touched on some pretty powerful tools like charts and pivot tables in Excel.
Oh yeah, those can be game changers.
They can. So let's dive into those a little bit more, shall we?
Let's do it.
Okay, so let's say I'm a business owner and I just launched this huge marketing campaign, right?
Yeah.
I'm really curious to see if it's actually driving more traffic to my website.
Sure, you want to know if it's working.
Exactly. Is there a specific chart that would be good for visualizing that kind of data?
A line chart would be perfect for that.
Okay, and how would that work?
So you'd plot your website traffic data over time with, the date on one axis and the number of visitors on the other.
So I could actually see if there's a spike in traffic after my campaign launched?
Exactly. You'd see it right there on the chart.
That's so much better than just staring at a spreadsheet full of numbers.
It is. It makes it much easier to understand the trends.
Now, what if I want to see the age range of my customers? Like, how many are in their 20s, how many are in their 30s, and so on?
For that, you'd want to use a histogram.
A histogram. Okay, what's that?
It's a chart that divides your data into different ranges, like age groups in this case.
Yeah.
And then shows you how many customers fall into each group.
So I could see, if my customer base is mostly younger people or older people.
Exactly. It gives you a visual representation of the age distribution of your customers.
That's super helpful for, tailoring your marketing and stuff.
Absolutely. You wouldn't want to market to teenagers the same way you'd market to retirees.
No, that would be a disaster.
It would. Okay, now let's say you want to explore the relationship between two different variables. Like, for example, is there a connection between how much time someone spends browsing your website and how likely they are to make a purchase?
Ooh, that's a good one. How could we visualize that?
A scatter plot would be your best bet for that.
Okay, and how would that work?
Well, you'd plot browsing time on one axis and purchase likelihood on the other, and each dot on the chart would represent a customer.
So if I see a pattern, like customers who browse for longer are more likely to buy, that would be valuable information.
It would. It could tell you that you need to focus on keeping people engaged on your website.
Maybe offer more personalized recommendations or something?
Exactly. You can use that insight to improve your website design and your marketing strategies.
Okay, so we've got line charts for tracking trends, histograms for visualizing distributions, and scatter plots for exploring relationships.
Those are some of the heavy hitters when it comes to data visualization.
They are. But we can't forget about pivot tables.
Yes, the mighty pivot table.
They're a bit more complex than charts, right?
They can be, but once you get the hang of them, they're incredibly powerful.
So remind me again what they're good for.
Well, imagine you have this massive spreadsheet with tons of customer data.
Like a giant haystack of information.
Exactly. And you're trying to find specific insights within that haystack.
Like, maybe I want to see the average purchase value of customers in different age groups.
That's a perfect example. A pivot table could easily calculate that for you.
So I wouldn't have to manually go through the entire spreadsheet and do all the calculations myself?
Nope, the pivot table does the heavy lifting for you.
That's amazing. And can I filter the data even further? Like maybe focus on customers in a specific city or who bought a particular product?
Absolutely. You can slice and dice the data in countless ways with pivot tables.
Wow, it's like having a personal data analyst at my fingertips.
It is. And the best part is Excel makes it pretty easy to create pivot tables. You don't need to be a coding whiz or anything.
That's good to know because I'm definitely not a coding whiz.
Me neither. But with a little practice, anyone can learn to use pivot tables effectively.
Okay, so we've talked about charts and pivot tables. Are there any other tools or techniques that businesses use to, really unlock the power of customer data?
Oh, there are tons. But I think one of the most important things is to remember that data is just a starting point.
What do you mean?
I mean, it's not enough to just collect data and analyze it.
Mhm.
You have to use those insights to actually make decisions and take action.
So it's not just about crunching numbers, it's about turning those numbers into something meaningful.
Exactly. You have to ask yourself, what does this data tell me about my customers? And how can I use that information to improve my business?
It's like data without action is just noise.
It is. So always be thinking about how you can translate your data insights into real-world results.
Okay, so let's say I'm a restaurant owner and I'm trying to decide what new dishes to add to my menu.
Okay, I'm hungry already.
Me too. But how could I use customer data to help me make those decisions?
Well, you could use pivot tables to analyze your sales data and see which existing dishes are the most popular among different customer segments.
That's a great idea. So I could see if certain dishes are more popular with families, couples, or solo diners.
Right, and that could help you tailor your new menu offerings to those specific preferences.
Or I could use charts to visualize customer feedback, like, see if there are any patterns in the positive and negative reviews.
Exactly. That could tell you what people love about your restaurant and what they'd like to see improved.
So I could use that data to refine my recipes, improve my service, and just overall create a better dining experience.
You got it. It's all about using data to make informed decisions and create a more customer-centric approach.
Okay, I'm starting to get the big picture here. It's not just about collecting data for the sake of it. It's about using it to understand your customers and make your business better.
Now you're getting it. And in the final part of our deep dive, we're going to zoom out a little bit and talk about the bigger picture of customer profiling, why it matters so much in today's business world.
Sounds good. Can't wait to hear more. Welcome back to the deep dive. We've spent the last two parts digging deep into customer profiling, really trying to understand how businesses can use data to connect with their audience.
It's pretty amazing what you can learn about people just from their data.
It is, but it's also a bit, thought-provoking, right?
Oh, so?
Well, it's like businesses are using data to understand our motivations, our desires, even our fears.
Yeah, I see what you mean. It's like they're trying to figure out what makes us tick and then use that information to their advantage.
Right. And that can be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on how it's used.
I agree. Like, on the one hand, it can feel a little intrusive, like they're peering into our lives a bit too closely.
Right. But on the other hand, if a company truly understands what their customers want and need, they can create products and services that make our lives better.
Yeah, that's the positive side of it. Like, imagine a company developing a new fitness tracker, right? Instead of just focusing on steps and calories, they use customer data to understand their motivations for exercising, their challenges, their goals, the whole picture.
So they're going beyond just the surface level.
Exactly. Maybe they discover that a lot of their customers are motivated by social connection or a desire to reduce stress.
Oh,
So then they can design the tracker in its app
mm-hmm.
to emphasize those aspects.
That makes sense.
Right. Create a more personalized and engaging experience that really resonates with their customers.
So they're not just selling a gadget, they're selling a solution.
Yeah, and a lifestyle. Like, think about brands like Apple or Nike, right?
Okay.
They've built these huge loyal followings by tapping into their customers' emotions and aspirations.
They've definitely figured something out.
They have. They understand that people aren't just buying a phone or a pair of shoes. They're buying into a lifestyle, a community, an identity.
They make you feel like you're part of something bigger.
Exactly. And that connection, that sense of belonging is incredibly powerful.
So customer profiling isn't just about increasing sales, it's about building those lasting relationships.
Exactly. And those relationships lead to, increased customer loyalty, positive word-of-mouth marketing, a stronger brand reputation overall.
It's like a win-win for everyone.
It is.
Yeah.
But of course, it's not always easy, right?
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
Like, the market's constantly changing, customer preferences are evolving, and there's always the risk of misinterpreting data or
Yeah.
making assumptions.
It's like trying to hit a moving target.
It is. So businesses need to stay agile, be willing to experiment, and always be listening to their customers.
It's not just about crunching numbers, it's about being human-centered, empathetic, and responsive.
You got it. And that's what makes this field so exciting,
And see that.
It's a blend of data science, psychology, and creativity. It's about using data to understand people, to connect with them on a deeper level, and to create a business world that's more human-centric and purpose-driven.
I like that.
Hmm.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with a challenge, okay?
Okay, I like challenges.
Think about the people you want to connect with, whether it's for your business, a personal brand, or even just your personal relationships.
Yeah, that's a good one.
What are their motivations? What are their aspirations? What makes them tick?
Ask yourself those questions.
Because taking the time to understand your audience is an investment that will pay off in countless ways.
It will. And remember, the tools and insights we've discussed today, they're available to everyone.
That's right. You don't need to be a data scientist or a marketing guru.
Nope, just be curious, be willing to learn, and be ready to connect with people on a deeper level.
Great advice. Well, that's it for our deep dive into customer profiling. Thanks for joining us, everyone.